Hello. So, you've got this amazing story, right? You've been through some stuff, you've overcome, and now you are ready to share that story and you want to help some other people with it, right? And the question I get asked a lot is, where do I start? So, there are actually 5 stages to creating a book. The plan stage, then after you plan what you're going to do, you're going to write the book. That's a stage. Then you have to have it edited, right? So editing is a stage. Design, what's the book going to look like on the outside? What's the book going to look like on the inside? What images or fonts or things like that? That's all part of the design stage. And then publishing is actually a stage. Some people think you're done once you've, hit the publish button, but there's a lot to the publishing piece on its own. And then, of course, there's a whole nother pathway of marketing your book, and we'll save that for another time. But in terms of the planning of your book, a lot of people want to know how to outline their personal story in a form where they can share it in a book. And there's a lot of ways that you can do this. But here's where I suggest that you start is think about everything that you went through. And the first thing you need to know is the theme or the moral of the story or just the whole point of it. What's the message that you want to get across? Why are you writing this book? So for instance, when I wrote my book about our son, the whole point of sharing that story was because I wanted people to know that God was real and that miracles still happen, especially wanted people who were also facing similar circumstances to know that miracles still happen. And so that was the theme, right? That's what we call the, believe it or not, the superficial story. So as we're traveling through the journey of all the different things we went through to get our son to where he was healed, that's the story most people are reading. That's what kind of guides the timeline and guides the telling. Then there is another layer called it's the oh goodness, I can't think of the term right now. It's basically the deeper story, the real thing that was going on that maybe isn't so obvious. So the superficial story is the thread that goes through that's really obvious to the reader. But if you want to write a really good book, especially if it's a personal book, you want to have also a deeper line. So what is that maybe deeper theme that is going to be a thread that goes through your story? So for me, that deeper story was how God was changing me through all of that journey of my son's story. And then, so those are the first 2 things you need. Then sit down on a blank sheet of paper, no numbers right now. Just make a list of all the primary milestones. What were the big things that you remember? Well, first we went to the hospital. Then they had surgery. Or whatever those big milestones that if you could say this happened and that happened in a really quick fashion, you'll end up with a list of major milestones. And those, hopefully, you have enough that those could be your chapters. For your average nonfiction book using a personal story, I'd say most people land somewhere between 12 and 15 chapters. A chapter being 5 or 6 to 10 pages long. Some people opt for many tinier chapters, and that's okay too. The milestones will give you a guide to make your outline by. So if you're good with how many there are and you just want to make each one a chapter and then add a beginning chapter and an ending chapter, boom, you've got your outline. If you have a way of telling your story where maybe you're sharing, journal entries or things that you were writing on social media, then you might want to make them tinier, right? But that is the best and the easiest way that I know to take a personal story and easily create an outline that you can start to shape a book around. So remember, you're going to have your main theme, your main story, your deeper story, and then what are the milestones around those 2 stories that take you to the ending, that moral of the story that you want to take your reader to. List out your milestones, number them. If you don't have enough, say maybe you only have 10 milestones, then take a look at some of them and see if you can make them maybe divide it up. Maybe one milestone is so big that it could be 2 chapters. And there you go. Shoot for 12 to 15 chapters, and you've got your book outlined.